Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning. Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right. I am John Palacio.
And I'm Marlene Cuellar. And thank you for joining us this morning.
That's right. Thank you so very much for starting your morning right with us. It's always a nice time having you with us. But there's so many things. You check the weather. It's beautiful out.
Yeah.
It's not overcast though.
I was trying to figure out, is it gonna rain? Is it just hazy? But there's a nice breeze that we've been having the past few days.
It is, especially getting at home in the evening time, opening all the windows and just sitting back, relaxing. Some great breeze just blew in the house, and wow, it feels so good. But it seems to be turning a little gray for the weekend. We're not there as yet, but we should be finding that out from the Met Service a little later on this morning. But Marlene, more to note. I mean, there's so many things going on in the country right now. There's so many news that is in the making, and of course we cover those on a daily basis and showcase to you live on 5, our newscast in the evening at 6 o'clock. But at 6 o'clock indeed. Yeah. But the unions, GOB, unions holding a press conference, they're not with it. GOB, not with it.
I think it's just one of those times that we have to wait and see what's going to happen next. There should be continued strike action from the unions today. We are expecting that much. They made it very clear yesterday that their strike continues. They feel they have the support of their membership. We've seen the surveys that they have sent out before. They do ask their members as to whether or not they're on board and how they feel about each specific proposal that has been put forward. This is a very unique situation that they're in now. The union leaders yesterday, in our conversation on Monday right here on the show, are very concerned because of the last presentation that was made by the Prime Minister last week, Thursday. And for them, they feel like the goalpost has been moved. Now, a lot of times when you're listening in, it is a bit of a challenge to pinpoint exactly what it will take. I keep on asking the question every time they're here, what is it going to take for this to come to an end? But it's difficult. When you think of the senior managers, when you think of the PSU, when you think of the teachers, they all have different needs, and they all have different ways that they'll be affected. One clear point would be the reduction of the work days. May work for public service, won't work for teachers. They don't even work in just the hours that they are at school. So, and then when you look at things like the land credit and the mortgage, that didn't work for senior managers. So it is a tough situation to be able to work themselves through, but it is necessary to find a resolution. I believe yesterday, one of the reporters asked about mediation, and I think that time has come and passed, and it really is critical. The chamber has offered themselves as a mediator. They're court-appointed mediators, but it is important that they get to the table and hammer this out. We're in, this would be day 18 of the strikes for the union. This is the longest strike the union, the teachers have been on. And so it's a daily report that we're making. I think because, as I said very early on, the public doesn't feel it as much because their children were already at home. Had this been 18 days of parents scrambling to figure out what to do with their children, this issue would have been solved because it would have been urgent for everyone. But in the meantime, we do hope that it is something that can be resolved. The next word needs to come from government. To find out what they plan to do. As the unions are saying, they're not satisfied.
There we go. So you're right, indeed. The next word should come from GOB. I think prior to that last sit down with the unions, GOB had mentioned that, hey, this is our last chance. And so what is there to come thereafter? That's the big question, because who will be sitting down? What will be the next step in terms of negotiations? Will there be any other negotiations with respect to this? The president of the BNTU in the press conference yesterday mentioned that, you know what, there were some things that we actually agreed to in the last conversation that we had. When the Prime Minister made mention via his on-screen mentions, he actually said, you know what, there are a few things that this is what we could offer. The BNTU president is saying that some of the things that we agreed upon, it was not mentioned by the PM during his speech. So the impasse is here. What's going to happen? How long will this last? And what can we do? That's the big question. That's the big question. But like we mentioned, Marlene, these things are playing out, and they come across on a daily basis, and we're actually covering it in our newscast in the evening at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, like the funeral processions countrywide yesterday. You chuckle. What are your thoughts? I've been asking everyone what they think of it.
Really? Clever. I mean, how do you come up with that? And, but they were doing this funeral procession to say we want to end corruption. This is the time to bury it. So we're actually taking it to a burial because we're so tired of it. And they're actually saying this to both parties, both major parties in Belize. They're talking PUP and UDP. They just want to end corruption. And there are a few things that they're also asking for. That let's see what the outcome is going to be. But we heard from the union leaders yesterday. When will we hear from GOB? That is yet to come.
Well, we did hear from the Labor Commissioner yesterday.
Yes, we did.
They did issue a release yesterday evening. And, of course, a part of the public statement is saying that they do acknowledge the importance of the unions. And, I always say it, and I think, when you pay attention, if you take the time to look at things internationally, you'll recognize just how powerful it is that our unions can exercise their right to protest, as they have been doing over the past few weeks. And that's always something I think we should never take for granted. But what the Labor Commissioner talks about is the illegal actions, what they call the illegal actions of blocking the roads and also reminding them of the existing COVID protocols, which are in the regulations, that they shouldn't be having mass gatherings. So I think it's a key reminder, or some may say warning, as to how they should proceed. But we will continue to follow the demonstrations and the protest actions in the days ahead. We, of course, look forward to hearing from government as to what happens at this point next. And the unions, they find a way to get their message out, as they did with their funeral yesterday.
The BNTU president mentioned yesterday the strike continues. But at the start of when it was mentioned that some schools were actually going to reopen, or it was going to be a phased reopening, some schools jumped on the idea and said, you know what, we feel that this is a great opportunity to try and get our students back into that regimen of having to go to school and back into that into their socializing ways. So much so, Marlene, that some students now, or some schools, are flagged because they have contracted the coronavirus. We actually did a story on that yesterday. It was covered by, it was a package done by Dwayne Moody, and we'd like for you to check that out right now.
From Wesley Primary School, 3 from lower division and 1 from the upper division have tested positive for COVID-19. A teacher from Queen Square Anglican School has also tested positive for the novel coronavirus as part of a contact tracing exercise ongoing as a result of the outbreak at the Princess Casino in Belize City over the weekend.
The Central Health Region team is working hard with the contact tracing. Contact tracing is what will allow us to contain the spread of the infection, and measures are being implemented with the schools to reduce the exposure of other kids to the virus.
The students ages 12, 10, 8, and 7 are all close contacts of persons linked to the Princess Casino outbreak. The 7-year-old is exhibiting mild symptoms while the others are asymptomatic. All students are in isolation. Today, there was little to no activity at the primary school as the Standard 1 and Standard 3 students and teachers were getting swabbed at the Central Health Region.
Had a parent from the school that was tested positive, and that parent had children in 2 of our classes. Due to that fact, we took those children along with the teachers, and everybody went and took their test today. We had 12 students and a teacher from Standard 3 and 15 students and 1 teacher from Standard 1. However, we learned that there was a relative in a Standard 2 class related to that parent, and so that other Standard 2 class along with the students and the teachers will be tested tomorrow.
Dr. Natalia Baer explains the process agreed to with the Ministry of Education.
When having cases in schools, we start first with the classroom where the positive case is identified. And if I'm not mistaken, the results from the testing of one of the classrooms, all of the kids were negative. The kid that was positive is a close contact of a family member that was diagnosed positive. So in this case, it is recommended, that the kids from the classroom where you have this child that has tested positive, the rest of the kids can stay away from the class until their result is available, the PCR result. And then if we confirm that all of them are negative, none of them have signs and symptoms, then they can go back to school.
Meanwhile, Vice Principal Pamela Baird makes an appeal to parents.
We're appealing to the parents. If you know you're positive, please, we're begging you to keep your child at home. Do not send them to school so that they can expose other people's children.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
All right, so that is the situation there at Wesley. We started this week knowing that there were a significant number of cases detected at one of the casinos, and it was, in fact, a situation where contact tracing would have to take place. I think, as Dr. Beer pointed out, the cases in the schools are tied to what they've seen at the casino or from the workers at the casino. And it was always one of the things that, when I found out about it, about the cases, I said that's where the danger lies. Yeah. Because there's one thing when you have a spread at work, you may not know, but it's when you go home. It's when you get home and you take off that mask and, you sit and have dinner together or just talk with your loved one, your children, hug your children. That's when you're making it spread even more. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, and I imagine, we got to be very cautious over the next 2 weeks as we try to put into perspective how many more people would have been exposed from this particular cluster. Yeah.
So that's one of the stories that we're covering, that we're actually following this week to see what the situation is going to be. But the coronavirus cases, we noticed there's a slight climb to it. I think we're around 64 cases, active cases in the country, throughout the country. So those stories and more right here on Channel 5 in our 6 o'clock news report. Nonetheless, Marlene, it is that time of the morning whereby we provide to you some motivation, and that comes with the eye-opener.
All right, so our eye-opener for today, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. It is important when pain comes our way to honor the experience, as it is usually a great teacher. Honoring the experiences we have in our lives is an invaluable way to communicate with life, our greatest teacher. We do this when we take time at night to say that we are thankful for what we are thankful for about our day, and also when we write in a journal. Both of these acts involve consciously acknowledging the events of our lives so that they deepen our relationship to our experiences. This is important because it brings us into closer connection with life and with the moment. Only when we acknowledge what's happening to us can we truly benefit from life's teachings. We can honor a painful experience by marking it in some way, bringing ourselves into a more conscious relationship with it. Sometimes all we need to do is light a candle in honor of what we've gone through and what we've learned. No matter how small the gesture, it will be big enough to mark the ways in which our pain has transformed us and to remind us to recognize and value all that comes our way in this life.
Ay, ay, ay. Marlene, every time we go through an eye-opener, it speaks directly to me. That's how I feel. It is important when pain comes our way to honor the experience. And I feel this is definitely one of the places that people need to look upon, as it is usually a great teacher. I continue to say, and I always say this, there is nothing bad that would happen. It's what we take from it. And this is a perfect example of it, as it is usually a great teacher. The final part for me here, no matter how small the gesture, it will be big enough to mark the ways in which our pain has transformed us. There are so many important words to factor in when it comes to our eye-opener for today, because transform us, great teacher, and to remind us to recognize and value all that comes our way in this life. Because every day something new can happen. And every day there are a few things you could pick out that you say, you know what, that was painful. But is that your focus, or should it be, or what you've learned from it? This eye-opener spoke to me a while ago, Marlene, and I'm so grateful for it.
Absolutely. All right. And we do hope that the eye-opener is something that you can take with you. You know, I think we've all learned as we get older that you're going to have good times,
Yes.
you're going to have bad times, you're going to have those in-between times.
Yeah.
It's not always on one end of the spectrum or the other, but you know, once you give yourself the chance to reflect,
Yeah.
and I think that's what stood out to me.
Definitely.
Taking the time at the end of the day to just have that moment, if not more time, to reflect on the lessons that come from it, it can be all the more a powerful experience. And you can truly appreciate the highs and lows of this thing we call life.
Yeah, definitely. Well summed up. I like it. You know, you might be looking through your window, probably getting in your vehicle, and you're wondering to yourself, hey, why does the weather seem to be a little confused? Wants to rain, it might not want to. The professionals are on the line to tell us all about it. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning.
And how are you today?
I am fine, and you?
We're doing great, actually, but we're wondering, why does the weather seems to look confusing? Well, let's talk about that. I mean, what's going on? What's the general situation going to be like?
All right. Regardless of how outside looks, we expect mainly fair and warm conditions to prevail once again today. So pretty much similar to the weather that we had yesterday.
Okay. All right. And in the 24-hour forecast?
All right. We expect some cloudy spells. The cloudiness that we're experiencing right now should decrease with time, and we expect tonight skies to become a bit cloudy again. Besides that, a few showers and thunderstorms will develop mainly over inland areas this afternoon, so over the Kaya district. Can expect afternoon showers and thunderstorms, and then that activity is expected over the south tonight.
Okay.
Over the remainder of the country, we expect only isolated showers.
All right. And so the winds?
Winds will continue from the east to southeast at about 10 to 20 knots.
All right. Which will be producing some highs and lows temperatures. Tell us about those.
All right. Along the coast, we can expect about 90 Fahrenheit. Inland, about 97 Fahrenheit. And up in the hills, about 86 Fahrenheit.
Okay. Lows for tonight?
Tonight will continue to be warm, similar to last night. Along the coast, we expect about 82 Fahrenheit, inland 76 Fahrenheit, and up in the hills about 70 Fahrenheit.
All right, there we go. And our extended forecast?
All right, for the extended forecast, we see a gradual change in the current weather conditions. So it starts tonight, mostly over the south, a few showers and isolated thunderstorms. We expect for Thursday that to continue mainly over the south. And then late Thursday night into Friday morning, we expect the activity to increase significantly and spread to most areas of the country. Now for Thursday night, I need to add here that the most significant activity that we expect will be over the southern districts, especially Punta Gorda, Toledo, sorry.
Wow.
So, yeah, we have the possibility of flooding because the rainfall amounts looks that high. That they can expect flooding over the Toledo district, some parts of the Toledo district.
Wow. And
So the rain will be concentrated in the south. Other parts of the country won't be affected.
Other parts of for Thursday night, it will be concentrated mostly over the south. But for Friday, we expect it to be widespread across the country for Friday. But again, for Friday, we expect most of the heavier rainfall to occur over the south. So Thursday night and Friday morning, we expect the heavy rainfall to be over the south, particularly the Toledo district.
And how severe are these thunderstorms going to be? Usually when there's a break in the heat, it can get pretty bad.
yeah.
Right, exactly. So we expect severe thunderstorms as well. Could possibly develop. By tomorrow, we should have a better handle on that.
Okay.
But so far as the rainfall amount, it does look like a lot of rainfall.
Okay.
All right. Well, Michelle, we're so thankful for this weather update.
You're welcome.
All right. Do enjoy your day.
Thanks, and same to you.
All right. So now we know exactly what to expect with the weather, Marlene. The National Met Service is saying here that especially in the Toledo district, and it says the possibility of flooding, especially over low-lying and flood-prone areas in the south. We need to look out for that.
All right, and there is a heat advisory for today, especially for those of you who are inland. The temperatures or the anticipated highs will be as high as 97. It always feels a lot hotter too. So please remember, stay indoors if you can, but most importantly, stay hydrated.
All right. Well, we've got three topics to focus on for this morning. As a matter of fact, our first topic for this morning will be joined by the Minister of Labor and his CEO, as they will be sharing their plans for the ministry and works being done in their particular constituents and, of course, throughout the country.
All right. And the second part of the show, this has been identified, this group has been identified from over a year ago as the most vulnerable group affected by COVID-19. So we're going to check in with the Executive Director of the National Aging Council as to what they've been doing to support the elderly and how things are going there.
All right. And we'll be wrapping up this morning with a look at Music Week 2021. Now, there'll be some lunch hour concerts by Belizean artists. Is that going to be throughout the country as well? We'll share that with you in our third segment this morning. We're about to take that break, but just before we do, we've got our birthday shout out. Ooh. And we would like to say a happy, happy birthday to none other than Whitney Swift. Life for the party. All we can do is love her. She's
very
beautiful.
Very familiar
she's
face
cool.
around here, of course. She's the lady that will welcome you when you come to Channel 5's offices. And John, I'm going to tell you, she's going to be disappointed that you didn't sing, so you better get to it.
So
I'm just saying.
Happy birthday to you. Wait, you can't say I never do it. Happy birthday once again to you. We love you so very much. Life of the party as per usual. Always with a beautiful smile. Thank you so, so very much for that. We're about to take that break. When we come back, we'll be jumping into our first segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live streams on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your Smart broadband with Smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
Hola, Tony. Hey, Kevin, ¿qué onda? ¿Qué pasa? Nada, le vine a buscar porque necesito comprar más mercancías de vasos y platos desechables para mi tienda de comestible. Me estoy quedando sin esas cosas.
No, hombre, fíjate que desde el 15 de abril no puedo importar nada de eso. Y se me acaba de terminar todo lo que tenía hace como 3 semanas.
Oye, pero nunca has estado sin esas cosas. ¿Qué está pasando?
Mira esto. Esta es la nueva ley que prohíbe todo el uso de plásticos no reutilizables. Esos son vasos, platos, cucharas, tenedores, todo eso. Desde 15 de abril de este año no he podido importar nada de eso. A partir del 15 de enero del 2021 nadie puede fabricarlo. 15 de abril 2021 nadie lo puede vender. Y a partir del 14 de julio del 2021 si alguien te agarra con eso, te multan.
Híjole, no sabía eso. Necesito cambiar algunas cosas. Les diré a mis clientes por qué esas cosas ya no están disponibles. Gracias, Antonio.
Así es, cuídate.
Available now at Bravo Motors.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Hello, Belize. You may not be aware of the new travel requirements set in place by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. Passengers traveling to the U.S. must present a negative COVID test or documentation of having recovered from COVID-19 to travel to the U.S. In light of this, Maya, in partnership with Caring Hands Clinic, have established testing centers in all their municipal airports. Caring Hands Antigen Test Center is operational in San Pedro, Belize City, Dangriga, Placencia, and Hopkins. These testing facilities are staffed by licensed healthcare professionals, including doctors, registered nurses, and nurse practitioners. Testing is done using Abbott rapid test devices that are FDA approved and made in the USA. The service is safe, fast, affordable, and the close proximity of the centers makes them convenient. Walk-ins are welcomed, but appointments are encouraged. If you would like to make an appointment, please feel free to do so at make your appointment, get tested, and in 15 minutes, you can get back to your vacation.
As one of the largest cable and internet providers in Belize, CBC strives to provide our customers with the highest standards of quality, value, and service in all aspects of cable TV and internet. Monitoring our systems closely, our technicians combine creative planning and state-of-the-art technology with years of experience and training to develop and provide the most reliable and advanced cable and internet service to exceed your expectations. for CBC and our team of talented engineers, technicians, and customer service representatives, delivering less than the very best is never an option.
Welcome back, and we're moving into now our first segment for the morning. Now, this is a conversation that will be held with the Minister of Labor and his CEO, and they'll be sharing with us their plans for the Ministry and Ministry of Works, and of course, works that is being done. The Ministry and works that are being done at this particular time. They're in with us, and we're so glad to have them in. Oscar Requena, Minister of Rural Transformation, Community Development, Labor, and Local Government, and of course, his CEO, Valentino Shell, CEO in the Ministry of Rural Transformation, Community Development, Labor, and the Local Government. Gentlemen, it's nice to have you in. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
So, jump on into it. I mean, following the elections last year, we're not far away from that, not even, 5-6 months out. But things are the way that it is. We know that things are hard. Let us know exactly what's going on throughout our country with your portfolio.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, Marlene. Good morning, John. Good morning, Belize. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here this morning. I must say that we're very excited. Indeed, it's been almost 6 months since this new government was elected to office, and I'm happy to say that I am grateful to the Prime Minister, for giving me the portfolio of rural development, rural development, rural transformation, community development, local government, and labor. And it is indeed an honor for me to have the opportunity to be able to serve our country. We started off with a bang, up and running. We know that we have great challenges with the economy, but definitely it was important for us to be able to, give the rural area the much needed attention. As you know, the rural area represents over 55% of our population. A very significant, percentage of our population, in Belize, and there are many, many challenges, in the rural area, from infrastructure, to health opportunities, to education, among many other areas. And certainly, it gives us the opportunity to be able to respond, to those challenges in a very positive way. And I will say that, I'm very happy that we have, our CEO, Mr. Shell, who is also from the Toledo district and also from a rural area, and, that has allowed us, to put our energies together, to put our focus together, to be able to, work hard, and our aim is really to, have a significant positive impact on the development of the rural area across Belize.
Yeah, CEO, tell us about the opportunity to be able to serve as CEO and also coming from a rural area and participating in this particular ministry.
Thank you, Marlene. John, thank you for having us. It is a privilege for me to serve. I have never aspired to work at the senior level of government. I've always been sort of in the background, working in the private sector, doing what I do. I work on a lot of development issues, so I'm very familiar with this landscape. But I've not really aspired to do this type of job. But I do welcome the opportunity, and I really am grateful that the minister, after he was appointed minister, called me and said, I'd like you to help. And I thought about it, of course. I thought about where we were as a country, what I have experienced so far, and I decided that it was a good idea to come in and take over the seat and do what I do best. So I am very happy for the opportunity to serve. And I think what
so far, what I can see that connects the minister and I is just our life experience, where we're coming from, and our will and our desire to give others opportunities that they have not had the chance to have or have been denied that opportunity. And so that's really what drives us. We want, because you see a lot of injustice in society. You know, people for whatever reason are discriminated against because of where they live or who they are. You know, we have seen people mistreated, and that's not the way you're supposed to run a government. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to try to make life better for people. And so that's kind of what the common thread that the minister and I share, the common value that we share. We are intent on making life better for people.
Well, I mean, you have such a vast portfolio.
Oh,
There's
yes.
so much to discuss
Oh, yes.
this morning, and I want to dive into what is the hot topic for today, and that is looking at the ongoing dispute between the unions and government. Let me just get your perspective as to how you feel the current situation or the current unfolding is taking place.
Well, Marlene, I must say that, you know, the Constitution, and certainly under, you know, the ILO conventions that, you know, Belize has ratified, you know, our teachers and our public servants are well within their right, you know, to be able to, you know, participate in, the, you know, whatever activities they may see fit, you know, be it demonstrations, be it strikes, you know, that is well within their right. You know, for us at the Ministry of, you know, Labor, we recognize that, you know, it is very important that, you know, we build this tripartite relationship that we have. It's very important, you know, government, employers, employees. And within that context, we have rights and responsibilities. You know, so obviously, you know, our public servants, our teachers are well within their rights. You know, what I can say to you is that, you know, as a government, you know, we have been involved in, you know, very intense, you know, discussions, you know, with our teachers, with our public servants, you know, through their union leaders. You know, for them to, you know, understand and have a better appreciation of where our country is in relation to the economic situation. You know, it is no secret. I mean, our Prime Minister and, you know, our government has made it absolutely clear to the nation that, you know, our country finds itself in a very difficult economic situation. And as such, you know, we have to make some very difficult decisions. You know, the Prime Minister has gone on record, and, you know, we are on record to say that, you know, we do concerns, and whilst we understand and appreciate the concerns that our public servants and teachers have, government has a responsibility to overall look at the welfare and the best interest of everybody. And it is in that context that, our labor commissioner, sent out that release basically saying, you are well within your right, but at the same time, we cannot, continue to have, our highways and our roads being blocked. And particularly the whole issue of, COVID-19, where we have seen that, there have been huge congregations, no social distancing, and it is cause for concern. We are now seeing, a resurgence of new cases. So,
it is concerning.
It is concerning,
So,
and it is in that context, Marlene and John, that, that release was sent out.
From your perspective as an area representative, what would you say to the public service? What would you say to the teachers who work in rural villages that we have documented here in the media that have one of the most challenging tasks, even getting to the schools? What would you say to them about the necessity of what is being proposed?
Marlene, I come from an education background. I was an educator for many years. So I fully understand and appreciate the issues and the concerns, the realities, the challenges that our educators live. I will not for any 1 second downplay that. Our teachers work hard, they sacrifice hard, they give a lot of their time and their resources, in the process of educating our children. But I want to say to them, development involves everybody. Our country needs all of us. And the reality is that, we cannot make blood out of stone. We are living in some very serious economic times, and we have to make those sacrifices. Yes, there is the need, for governance reform. We have committed to do that. We are going to do that. And my message to them is, let reason prevail. Let us come together. Let us work together for the best interest and the benefit of our people.
I would go as far as to tell you that I think that would be the same messages from the unions. And GOB went out on a limb last week to say, what, this is basically our last time to have a sit down.
Right.
Are we still at that particular point, or will there be something else coming in the future?
Well, negotiations, are always ongoing. There's always the need, for continued discussion. And I have to say, I am of the view that, government has made all the necessary concessions. I mean, the teachers and the public service started off initially with the whole issue of the 10%. Then they went on to the issue of good governance. We have looked at all of those areas. So I believe that the time has come that, we need to, let reason prevail and let us move forward.
So let's shift to the other side of the labor conversation. In the interest of time, I want to get in as much as we can. The pandemic fallout has included many things. The economic repercussions are one, but that's also a big part of the unemployment that we've been seeing. This has been, of course, a conversation that is ongoing. We can talk investment, many things, but there's also been some changes within the Labor Department itself in trying to get people connected to jobs. What's the plan to get us from where we are with the current unemployment statistics, and depending on which one you use, unemployed or underemployed, to a better place? Do you want to take that, CEO?
Yes, well, that's a huge undertaking, and that's, of course, not something the Labor Department or our ministry alone will be able to address. Growing the economy requires the full participation of the government, private sector, citizens on their own, even just their own creativity and innovation, as you have seen in many instances recently. But in the process, we are putting in place measures to facilitate the connection between employment opportunities that come out of the larger initiatives taken on by the government and those who are unemployed. A simple thing, what we call information asymmetry, means that we don't have the same information and we are not connecting. And so a lot of times there are opportunities, people are not aware of them, or sometimes people want to fill jobs, they seem to be unable to find the right person to fit that job. And it's a simple matter of information asymmetry. And so what we're trying to do is to make it easier to communicate in the marketplace, in the labor marketplace. Who has a job, who's looking to fill a vacancy, who has skills, who's looking to become employed and provide services. And so that's kind of what we're doing. And of course, we're in 2021, so we're trying to use, well, we're not trying, we're using technology to make that efficient communication and transaction within the labor marketplace. And so that's one of the reasons why we have been pushing hard to go online and have people able to access these platforms even from their phones, because you're not, sometimes you're in a village, you're not really in town, but if you have data signal and phone signal, you can access this information. So making it easier to connect, making it very efficient, no matter where you are, and no matter the skill level. You can be highly qualified or not as qualified. The platform is still available. So really, it's about connecting people in the fastest way possible, especially under the circumstances. We know a lot of people have lost their jobs, especially from the tourism sector. But even so, I mean, the population is growing, so we keep producing new workers, and the economy for the last decade has stagnated, and so there was not even space for them, even before COVID. So we have that humongous challenge that we need to deal with. And of course, we are dealing with that in other areas as well, promoting in foreign direct investment, promoting the growth of new industries, expanding our exports. And so you can slowly see some life coming back to the economy, and reopening tourism, for instance. And I love statistics, so I follow the trends, and I can see a little pickup in the economic indicators that are very useful for us. So, like I said, it's not something one ministry alone can do, but we're doing the part that we can.
So we had the Labor Department on talking about the new platform. Very interesting. People sign up if they're unemployed and want to find jobs, and people who have openings can register there as well, and it can help to connect them. So has that been progressing? People have been using the platform?
Yes, it has, and we have officers who regularly check the platform, who actually go and call these people and vet them, because we want to make sure that these are legitimate uploads that we put on the system. And once they're cleared, they're vetted, they know that they're readily available. They're also in contact with employers, those who have registered on the system and those who are potential registrant to the system, so people who can get on the system. So they have been reaching out every day to people to make the connections. And this is something that they used to do manually, but now it's being done electronically.
And let's expand there from looking at using the Labor Department as a platform, but also looking at the existing labor laws. Last year, we ran into a predicament where, because the pandemic was novel in its own sense, we didn't have things like furloughing in our laws. We didn't have some of this space for us to be able to get through the challenges that we saw with employment. What's the plan in looking at ensuring that there is sufficient protection for employer and employee in the labor laws that exist?
Yes, the response we have had to do has had to be institutional. So we can't really just look at one bit and say we'll fix that, and then tomorrow we're hit with something else and we fix that bit. So what we have had to do is first to reconstitute what we call the Labor Advisory Board. These are a group of people that represents the government, the private sector, and the unions. And so that they can collectively come to the table and ask these very same questions and say, okay, how can we make sure that we are able to address these things when they arise, and of course try to preempt them as well. And so we have reconstituted the Labor Advisory Board. I think we have very good people on the board, and they have now started meeting. I think they're on their third meeting, And this is one of the main things on their agenda, because it is from that consultative process that then they will make recommendations to the minister for us then to take to cabinet to make those changes. So there is a process to it. I mean, I wish I could just sit down and look at the law and scribble on it and make the changes myself.
But you're going to be guided by the advisory council.
But there is a body in place that assists with that. So we have put that in place now, and they are working, and I'm very happy to see that they have been discussing these issues. But on top of that, one of our items on our agenda when we came into the ministry is to reform the law, revise the law itself, the Labor Act that is currently in place, not just to address the issue, like with the ongoing challenges that COVID has brought, but in general. I mean, is this law something that needs to be updated?
Yeah.
We look at, because we need to protect workers, for instance. We look at some of the penalties in the law. They're so meager that it provides no real protection. Right? You can violate the law and you just pay and you go about your business. And that's not the intent of the Labor Act. We need to protect the workers as we do the employers. And so those are some of the things. And so I have asked the Labor Advisory Board to put that on their agenda as well, to review the law so that we can...
And the penalties.
Well, the penalties too, but there are other aspects as well that needs to be looked at. So they're taking care of that.
Has the issue of the occupational and safety health aspect come up as yet? This has been on the to-do list, I know, from the unions and private sector for quite a while. There's been very little progress made.
Yes. We're in office about 5-6 months, going 6 months now. And one of the things I find, this is just relating a personal experience, is we found a lot of things just there, sitting on the shelf, not moving for a decade, years. And I find it strange and interesting at the same time. I mean, what's the point of having a government? What's the point of having a ministry and a department whose job and responsibility is to deal with these things, and just leave these things on the shelf? And so we have pushed through a lot of things that have just been sitting there. For instance, reports to the International Labour Organization since 1990, I think. And we just last week the cabinet approved it. This week yesterday I signed a letter. We're sending off to the ILO, bringing us up to date with the ILO. Wow. I mean, we have not been up to date with them, and they sent me a letter saying, this is not good. You need to bring us up to date. And so we acted immediately. So that is what we found, is that there's just stagnation in the public service, in how we are dealing with issues that affects the population and the citizens. And so we have moved then to deal with these things. And again, this is something that is on the agenda for the Labour Advisory Board. Like, what are we going to do about it? And tell me what we need to do. I will tell the minister what we need to do, and we will move ahead. Because occupational health and safety is extremely important. Extremely important for workers, extremely important for the economy.
But also costly for employers.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? But this is the thing. I mean, you can look at it like that.
Yeah.
But I think we need to go beyond that. I mean, if you spend $100 now on safety equipment, for instance, or improving the work site to prevent accidents, then you don't have any liability later on if somebody gets real hurt, bad hurt, or if they die. I mean, what is the cost to you now? What is the cost going to be? So,
and it is unfortunate when you think of accidents, like remember the one in Civic Center, people falling from scaffolding.
Yeah, and people losing their lives.
That's the only time we really get to this conversation.
No, but I mean, like, before going into this job, I've been working with institutions like the World Bank, where occupational health and safety is extremely important to them in their projects. And so they require beneficiary governments, like the government of Belize, to put these things in place. So we have these things in place de facto because the World Bank, for instance, because they're giving us money or lending us money. As part of their requirement, we need to have these measures in place. So we are doing it sort of de facto because we're being pushed to do it. And so it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, there are very good standards out there. We know what we need to do. We need to make sure workers are safe on the job, not exposed to harmful effects of whatever they're dealing with.
But there must be a buy-in process with the employers, because if Marlene had mentioned it, I mean, it comes as an expense. But at the same time, what you're saying as well is that if you spend that 100 now, you save a lot more.
Yeah, look, I mean, I have supervised large projects, and you go and you see workers cutting steel without safety goggles. A simple thing. I mean, that people have lost their eyes, limbs from those things. And I think that part of the problem is that workers have not filed lawsuits against the employers for these things. But if they did, it will cost the employers quite a bit of money, and then they realize, you know what, it's cheaper to pay for our safety goggles than have to pay $100,000 because this person got hurt because I failed to protect this worker. So I think we need to be serious here. I mean, you as a company, you as the employer, how can you expect people to work for you and not protect them and give them basic protection? I think that is very irresponsible.
Yeah.
Let's shift now to another issue. As I said, I know there's a lot that we got to cover, and I'm going to get this one directly to you, Minister, because of the political ramifications of the campaign leading into the election was to raise the minimum wage.
Right. Well, definitely, Marlene, you know, that was a commitment that we made on the Plan Belize, and I can say to you that work is underway. You know, we have established, you know, a working committee, you know, to study, you know, the whole issue of, you know, the minimum wage and, you know, the proposals that we have made. You know, it is something that we have to look at. You know, when you talk to the man or the woman on the street, you're going to hear, you know, from them, you know, the challenges, you know, that they have in just, you know, meeting their daily expenses, you know, their salary is, you know, insufficient. You know, they cannot, you know, make ends meet. So that is definitely, you know, a discussion, you know, that, you know, we have to look at. We have to put in place, you know, the necessary, you know, mechanisms. You know, we also have to look at, you know, legislation if we have to make the necessary amendments. Those are issues that we have to deal with. But yes, we are dealing with it.
Though, since you've been 6 months looking at the situation of labor, unemployment, the economy, do you think it's possible in 5 years?
I believe so, Marlene. You know, we are going through some very difficult times right now. I mean, you know, it's not easy, but it is something that, you know, we made a commitment to, and, you know, we have to look at it, because the truth of the matter is that, you know, we have to always be working hard towards making life better for our people. That's what we have to do.
Yeah. You know, with respect to rural transformation, or actually, you know, trying to get it very progressive. You did mention that 55% of our country is based rural. We noticed that one of the things to notice is actually with the vibrancy of agriculture that's going on at this particular point. What's the union there between rural transformation and the Ministry of Agriculture in trying to get these lives progressed?
You know, a very good question, John. And, you know, we always, you know, in our discussions with CEO and our partners in development, we always say that, you know, when you look at rural development, it has to be a multifaceted approach. I mean, it involves everything. You know, rural development encompasses, as I said earlier, you know, the economy, health, education, infrastructure, you know, public utilities, everything. You understand me? So, you know, and there is great opportunity. You know, I must say that if you have observed, you know, my colleague, Minister Mai, as the Minister of Agriculture, has hit the ground running. You know, we have seen that, you know, he is very serious about, you know, revamping, you know, agriculture in this country. We have seen him, you know, actually getting out into the rural area and, you know, putting a lot of emphasis, but not only the rural area, because there is also discussion about, you know, urban gardening and, you know, also promoting agriculture. So I think, you know, it's looking at it from, you know, a national perspective, and, you know, putting in place the necessary, you know, policies, you know, strategies to promote agriculture. Agriculture, you know, plays a very significant role in growing this economy. There is no doubt. You know, we need to ensure food sustainability, You know, that is a challenge right now in the context of this pandemic. You know, food prices are going up. You know, so we need to look at that. We need to look at how, you know, we can, you know, ensure that our people can grow their food in a sustainable manner, and, you know, also be able to look at the opportunity to be able not only to feed their families, but also as an opportunity to be able to generate income, you know, and improve their livelihoods. That is very important. You know, Belize is blessed with, you know, fertile soils, good land, you know, so I believe that what has to be done is that, you know, we have to put in place the necessary, as I said, the necessary, you know, policies, structures, support to help our farmers. Take, for instance, you know, in the Toledo district or even across Belize, what farmers want. They want to ensure that if they are going to produce, that they can access their farms. That when they have their produce, that they can bring out their produce. So we need to ensure that we have appropriate, you know, roads, that we have in place the necessary infrastructure. Farmers also want to ensure that, you know, they have, you know, adequate markets that are going to be able to pay them, you know, a fair price. You know, so there are great opportunities out there. I come from, you know, an agricultural background, so I definitely have, you know, an agricultural bias. I believe that that is the way to go, and you know, I believe that, you know, we are going to see significant changes in this 5 years. Take, for instance, in the Toledo district, you know, in our 5 months in government, we have already, you know, had meetings with our farmers in the Toledo district. You know, we are, you know, revamping, reorganizing, you know, getting, you know, the marketing board to be able to say to our farmers, you know, we are going to, you know, buy the rice. You know, they are providing the seeds. So right now our farmers are getting ready to plant, so we want them to produce. We also have farmers, you know, who are also getting into cardamom, you know, into pepitos, you know, into beans and corn. So these are the things that we are seeing. We are seeing in other parts of the country where our farmers are getting into, you know, vegetables, you know, into cattle production, into sheep and other livestock. So there are great opportunities. You know, I believe that as a country, you know, we can look at, you know, one, feeding ourselves, two, excess to be able to export. You know, Guatemala has 17 million people that we need to feed. You know, here's a great opportunity. We also have CARICOM, you know, where, you know, we need to tap into that market and ensure that we get our products out there. And that is why I am happy to say that, you know, I was very elated when I heard that, you know, we now have, you know, Belizean chicken. You understand me? Belizean, you know, ice cream, Western dairy products actually getting into the CARICOM market. That is wonderful for us. That is going to create great economic opportunities for our people.
Let's stick on the topic of rural transformation, and I want to ask you this question from a different perspective. You said 55% of the population lives in a rural area, but it is the most underrepresented group. You know that. You sat in the opposition seat for a long time with thousands of people you know, who had supported you. Redistricting was an issue moving into the election. What are your thoughts on that today, especially seeing, having been on the opposite side where your people, the thousands of constituents that you had, couldn't be served, and smaller constituencies who had been able to secure a seat did get the attention that they needed?
Absolutely, Marlene. There is the need for reform. There is the need for redistricting. I mean, I sit here this morning. I represent 28 villages. 28 villages. Covering a span of about almost 100 miles. So it's not easy. Now compare that to Fort George, for example, or Mesopotamia, where you can walk that, you know, in 3-4 hours.
Or
you know,
your colleague, Minister Ferguson.
Right. You know, Minister Ferguson has almost 10,000 voters. You understand me? You know, so it's definitely a challenge for me as a representative, you know, coming from the rural area, to be able to, to reach out to all these communities in a timely manner, but not only to be able to reach out, but also to be able to service, you know, their needs. You understand? It's a very difficult task. You know, in the last 5 months, we have done significant work in my constituency in terms of trying to improve the roads, you know, opening up new farmers' roads that were never opened up in the last 10 years. But we have only been able to do about 12 to 15 communities, I still
of
have a lot
28,
more that are waiting.
Yeah.
You understand me? And that is the challenge. So to go back to the question of whether we need to redistrict, yes, we need to do that. There is, I believe that there is the need to create, a greater balance, because at the end of the day, we need to ensure that our people have appropriate and adequate representation, at the highest level.
What about classifications? Some of these villages, they represent, they're as big as some of the towns that we find.
Yes, we have already started discussion around that topic.
Is there a legal definition for town, village?
Yes. Like a village, for instance, can be declared when you have at least 200 eligible voters. Things like that. But we have villages that are bigger than towns.
Yes.
And we have villages that are
Nadyville,
operating like towns.
Yeah.
Like
Bella Vista.
Bella Vista,
yes.
Placencia, Independence, Keycaulker.
Yeah.
And so we are going to have a discussion with these communities to talk about what they're interested in. Some have been very direct with us and say, we want to be declared a town and be over with this.
Wow.
And so that's sort of the thing that we need to do. I mean, we have the population in these villages are very large, very significant. You have large businesses in these communities who, because of the way the laws are currently written, are not paying their fair share of taxes, for instance. You can set up a business up in Ladyville and you don't have to pay a trade license because it's out of the reach of the Belize City Council. And there's nothing that allows the Ladyville Village Council to charge you a trade license. So you're good to go. So but you're using all the infrastructure, all the streets in the village, your customers, everything, but you're not paying taxes. So those are things that we are already looking at. Before this term is up, we will deal with these issues. But these things, again, as I alluded to earlier, these are not new issues. These things have been there forever. Why hasn't this been addressed? But that aside, we are intent on tackling all of these issues. There are several local government issues that we're also dealing with, in addition to the issues with the villages, because we're rural transformation, which means we're responsible for villages and village councils and water boards, but we're also a ministry for local government. And so we are also responsible for all the towns and everybody else who live in there. So essentially we're responsible for the whole country. Right? And so,
can you explain to us, CEO, what is the impact of the reclassification? Because you spoke of it from a tax perspective, but it's also that some of these communities are already self-sufficient. Bella Vista is a great example of that. What is the impact of if you reclassify a village to a town, and what are the benefits or pros and cons?
Well, I mean, it leads to greater decentralization. It leads to greater autonomy for the community. It leads to more resources for them to address their own needs. Because, for instance, Bella Vista has a lot of streets, but they're very poor streets that haven't been graded for 13 years. But if they were a town, they could have addressed those streets without having to wait on central government to do these things for them. So that's the benefit, is that you can begin to address, like they don't have a garbage collection system, right? So you can, when you are a town, there are things that you have power to do, you have the authority and the mandate to do, and you have resources with which you can work on to address these things. So, but right now they don't have it, so they either just wait, or they can't do it because they don't have any resources, or it depends on who their area representative is. They may or may not get help. That's not the way you develop a country. That's not the way we're going to progress. We have to put in place governance mechanism that allow people to help themselves and improve their own lives. And that starts by having good local government.
And that is primary indeed.
Right. And if I could just add to what CEO said, currently we are looking at several legislative initiatives that are going to empower our local communities. For instance, I intend very soon to take amendment to the legislation to the House to be able to make reforms to increase the autonomy of our local communities. For instance, we're looking at where village councils would be able to collect trade licenses. We're looking at issues where village councils would also be able to collect mining licenses, you know, in the case of communities where you have peers, that they would also be able to collect peer, you know, fees. All these are aimed at, you know, giving our communities greater autonomy and empowerment to be able to generate income, you know, to be able to take care of their needs in their communities. So, you know, it's a very, you know, comprehensive, dynamic process. But, you know, we are intent on, you know, making some of these reforms to be able to help our people.
Time is dwindling down, and I don't want for you guys to leave without throwing this one out. You guys are from the Toledo district, of course.
Both of us.
Like myself. Like myself. She used to live there as well.
I was going to say, I'm all on the Southern Love bandwagon.
You are outnumbered.
I live there.
She used to live there. She used to live there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
all four of us, we've got that within us. But there is also a situation there in the Toledo district with the Mayalan rights. And there was a situation there in, I think, Midway Village.
Right.
What's the current situation with respect to getting it dealt with? At this particular point, it seems a little stagnant. What's the situation there with that situation?
The particular Mayalan rights issue is being dealt with by the ministry responsible for Indigenous Affairs. So that is on their plate. Now they can call us, they call us for assistance, but they are taking the lead in dealing with that matter. And I think several years have been wasted in addressing this, because 3-4 years have passed and there's no clear definition of what it is that they're going to do to implement the ICJ ruling on the matter. But now the new government has taken over. We have a new minister, a new CEO, a new department, a new commissioner for Indigenous rights and Indigenous affairs. So they're the ones sort of putting all of this together, examining the issue, and I'm pretty sure that 3 years is not going to pass and they're not going to do anything about it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that CEO Santos, Minister Balderramos, Commissioner Chuck are meeting on this issue, and I'm sure that very soon we're going to hear from them about how is it exactly they're going to move this issue forward, because it's been pending for too long. Yeah. Every time the CCJ asks the government for an update in the past, there is no real update. And I don't think that that's the same situation we're in. I think they are intent on dealing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know there is a lot to get into, and we have seen, and we didn't touch on all the other meetings that you've been having and the infrastructure work that you've done in the villages, because I think those have been reported on. But the idea of rural transformation, as your ministry is defined, what do you envision that you are transforming them into?
I think it's a very valid question, Marlene. Development is a process, and development engages stakeholders. It's a very complex situation that requires a very long journey, if I can use that that analogy. But definitely, it's something that we have to work from a perspective of looking at how is it, first of all, the individuals, our people who live in the communities, and what is it that they want. So it has to be, a very engaging process. We have to engage our communities, for them to be able to define, what are their needs, how do they envision moving forward, how do they see the role of government, how do they see their role in that process. What support mechanism needs to be put in place, whether it is through legislation, whether it is through resources and infrastructure. So it has to be a very engaging process. But, my vision really is that, government, the people, our stakeholders, that we come together and we work towards one common goal at improving the lives of our people. We know that the rural area has many challenges, whether it is health, so we have to look at the health, we have to look at education, we have to look at agriculture, we have to look at the infrastructure. In other words, what I'm saying, we have to look at the holistic development of our communities, of our people. That is what we have to engage
I think, really, rural transformation is about improving the quality of life for our citizens who live in the rural areas. Yeah. As it is right now, the rate of poverty in rural areas is twice that of the urban areas. So we have a problem there. The opportunities are less, whether it's in health or education, yeah, or even employment. The services, the availability and accessibility of services is lacking in rural areas. So we address those things. We address, accessibility to services. Yes. We improve the infrastructure. We improve the opportunities that they have. Mm-hmm. And we, of course, put a dent in poverty in rural areas. And that, I think, for us is what rural transformation is about. We need to go from where we are now to a better place. And so, before we go, I mean, I know we're...
Let me just jump in there at one point, because then you touched something, and I got to go after it. So, because usually when we talk about the poverty indicators, and we say what has been identified, which is especially you're one of the area representatives for Toledo, that Toledo is recognized as underdeveloped, and also they have higher incidences of poverty. Now, I've heard the arguments many times before that traditional living is oftentimes confused as poverty, and it's just based on the indicators that you use. But it boils down to simple things, just the basic needs that are provided for accessibility to necessary care, whether it's health care or education. How do you focus on being able to build the communities, allowing them for greater access? Infrastructure is one, but really changing the dynamics of the situation of poverty in rural areas, especially in the South.
Let me, if I can jump in quickly. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Toledo. I grew up in poverty. And I don't really like when people romanticize poverty. There's nothing beautiful about it. Yes, we have traditions which are beautiful, but there's nothing traditional or beautiful about poverty. That's where I'm coming from, and I have been able to extricate myself out of it. I want to extricate as many people as I can out of it. So the fact is there is poverty. The fact is people have a poor quality of life. They're unable to access services. There are limited opportunities. You have to eke out a living however, which way you can. That is not tradition, and that is not romantic. And there is this, so I really, I think we need to move away from framing rural poverty in that sense. Of course, people get by. Of course, people survive how they can. Of course, there are some things that they do well, right?
And they can be happy families.
Yes, of course.
Strong traditions.
No, strong
but it
traditions.
Doesn't mean they're not poor.
Strong traditions, good households, strong communities produce a lot of happiness. A lot of happiness because you're with the people who you love and care about. That's perfectly fine. So to change the dynamic of those things, we got to change the environment. Change the environment. And people want to change. This is why there are probably more people from the Toledo district living outside of the Toledo district. Why? They're trying to get away. Why? Because they're trying to find something better. If it was all good and romantic, the way some people frame it, we would not move. But there are a lot of people, and so there's plenty of work to do. I think in the first step in addressing a problem is to define it properly.
Absolutely.
Final words.
No, I just wanted to add to what CEO said. I think it's about creating opportunities for our people. That is very, very important, and I believe that a very key opportunity is access to good quality education. Very, very important. I believe that education. I only had the opportunity to be able to go to high school, and thereafter I had to start working because I came from a very large family, and thereafter I had to send myself to school. Eventually to university, but at least I was one of the fortunate ones that I had an opportunity to at least go to secondary school. We have a lot of our young people, you know, in the rural areas who do not have an opportunity to go to school. And those are the areas that we need to change. We need to create greater educational opportunities for our young people, because I personally believe, I'm convinced that one way out of poverty is through education. So I just wanted to elaborate on that part, that, you know, it is about creating better opportunities, greater opportunities for our people in the various areas.
All right, thank you guys so very much. We must leave it there
Yeah.
now.
I think we did 3 of your 4 portfolios. Yeah, it's a big one, and I think people don't realize that. But thank you for taking the time to come in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, too.
All right.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, we need to take a break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by the Executive Director of the National Aging Council to talk to us about how COVID actually affected our elderly. So we'll do that when we come back.
Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky, and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
In these challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking, and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
I will play a role in creating a cultural and social shift that no longer tolerates violence against women, girls, boys, and other men. We all have responsibility, so I will challenge my friends, family, neighbors, and my co-workers to end gender-based violence.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Andrea Polanco, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
With the touch of a finger, we can easily unlock our phones and securely gain access to our data. This technology is called biometrics, and the Social Security Board is introducing fingerprint recognition to make transactions and handling of your sensitive data secure, fast, accurate, and convenient. Is your identity safe? Fingerprint recognition will keep your Social Security record secure and confidential while making your access fast and easy. It protects your identity. Is your name a common one Fingerprint recognition uses your unique characteristics, ensuring your hard-earned benefits go directly to you, the rightful owner. Tired of all the paperwork? Fingerprinting makes this hassle-free. Your convenience and your information security is our priority. Fingerprint recognition coming soon. Social Security at your fingertips.
Today's COVID update is brought to you by Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
And we are back, and we're moving now into our second conversation, all courtesy Fulltech Systems. Of course, this is our COVID-19 update. Now, the conversation is definitely going to be one to reckon with. We have in with us Ishel Put, who is actually the Executive Director of the National Aging Council. Now, what's the conversation about? COVID-19 did, in fact, affect us greatly, affected the elderly. Ishel, good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning, John. Good morning, Marlene. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys as always.
Great to have you. So let's just jump right into it. As the National Aging Council, with the responsibility of looking at our elderly population, what do you think, beyond the severe symptoms of COVID and the loss of life we've seen, what do you think are some of the impacts to our elderly population that we haven't been paying attention to?
Well, I think COVID has really changed the way we all live our lives.
Yeah.
As you said before, with older persons, it is definitely a case of them being more impacted. If you would look at the statistics, 69% of all our deaths are people 60 and older who are older persons. So it's definitely a high risk of mortality. But what has also happened to older persons is that a lot of the support networks and support systems that have been in place over the years have really kind of collapsed in, and so older persons are left with very little of their support system or the ability to socialize as they used to before. We also look at the case of where we have lost a lot of older people to COVID-19, and the way that we mourn, the way that we grieve, the way that we recover from loss is completely different. So you have older people who have lost friends, who have lost family members, and have been unable to grieve and reach out in the way that they have been used to. And so that creates in and of itself its own stressors. And then older persons becoming isolated, their centers not being able to be open, not being able to congregate in churches as they were used to before, not being able to visit as they were used to before. Simple things, going to the market, activities that were previously kind of a hub for everyday living have changed drastically for older persons. And so there is definitely higher cases of isolation, depression, and older people having compromised health. And then, of course, that exposes how fragile the health of some older persons are after the pandemic set in and lockdown measures and older people being isolated, living by themselves. We also saw families having to take on larger roles as caregivers for older people who were previously very independent and able to do many things for themselves. So look at all of those things that have changed. And of course, there's also been changes in economic situations. I know we've talked about before on Open Your Eyes that about 61% of our population doesn't have any pension income. So you have older people who depend on day-to-day commerce, and that all evaporated, and they didn't necessarily fit into any of the categories for unemployment. And we also look at older persons being impacted by the way everything has become digital. You know, you need to log in, you need to fill out an online form. How many older people actually have social media? How much of the messaging is actually reaching them? How many things can they really access now when previously they were able to do things on their own? And so those are some of the challenges that have really left older persons kind of out on a limb.
That's a lot.
Yes, beyond the health challenge in and of itself, the social challenges and implications have been vast for older people.
For me, I think one of the two things that I identified, one was clearly the risks for older people, but also we've always discussed how social integration is difficult for the aging population. And then we went into this hyper-protective mode where, you know, they couldn't see grandkids, they couldn't have physical touch with people, they weren't allowed to go places that they couldn't, that they used to be able to go before. What's your advice to families about how to navigate this type of protective behavior in a safe way where it doesn't just add to the burden that the elderly person may be feeling?
Well, one of the things that we do recommend for families to do is to find ways to interact with older people continuously. And that has really brought us into making more phone calls, being involved in video calling. And we find that older persons are interested, they're willing to learn. Their challenge is that they don't always have patient teachers. So definitely exercise patience with older people. I know we often hear about, you know, we have to be have patience with children because their school situation has changed. They have been able to see their friends in a very real way. That is the same thing that's happening to older people. So how can we, now that things are starting to open up, now that there is a vaccine available, what are some simple things that we can do to help our older people? If there is a park in your neighborhood where there is seating and it's open air, take your older person out to a park. Have them sit down. It can be as simple as coordinating with one of their friends to make sure that they're there at the same time and they sit at a safe distance and talk. Have them engaged in, if they're watching their favorite television show, have someone sit and watch your television show along with them, provide them with company, you know, and kind of bring back simple things that we weren't necessarily paying attention to. And of course, being mindful of the amount of time that the older person in your life is spending locked up indoors. One of the things we noticed early on is that older persons would opt to stay inside. I want to stay inside. I don't want to go outside. Outside is now a scary place. And that even translated into maybe not wanting to go out into their yard. So something as simple as being able to go into your yard and walking around, which means that if you have a yard that needs cleaning, somebody needs to actively pay attention to cleaning, making sure there's a walkway, there's a path that the older person can come out. So how many days has your older person actually been outside? During the course of this week, has your older person touched base with any of their friends, any of the people that they normally speak to? This can be a regular phone call, this can be a video call, but have they spoken to someone that they normally speak to or they would like to speak to? So, and we also see that there are little avenues or small little instances of neglect that sometimes impact older persons that we don't necessarily consider neglect because we are at different levels of independence. So if you have an older person that has been asking you for 3 or 4 days to help them make a phone call and you haven't had time to do that, that is a form of neglect. If you have an older person who's been asking you to get something for them that they are physically unable to do or afraid to go and do at this time. You know, I run out of Vicks, somebody please go to shop and buy me some Vicks. And you ask for 2-3 days, somebody get you some Vicks and nobody have time. You know, those are small instances of neglect that create barriers for the older person. Because imagine how vulnerable you feel when you don't have the power to do something for yourself and the people that you are asking to do it, even though it's something simple.
Especially
time to do it.
Especially Vicks, because no matter what we think about it, if the elderly person in your family feels it's something to help keep them safe, that's critical to their own feelings.
Right, and the Vicks thing, the Vicks thing is really because sometimes we don't think that it's important. You know, I will get you your Vicks. Monday come, you still not get the Vicks. Tuesday come, you still not get the Vicks. Wednesday come, you still not get the Vicks. You know, maybe by Friday you get the Vicks, but in that time, the toll that it can take on the mental health of the older person.
But you know, Michelle, you know, and I've heard of and I'd like for you to address this if possible. I've heard of anti-vaxxers actually keeping their grandparents in to not get the vaccine, even though they would want it. Have you heard of it, or have you heard of anything And what would be your advice to these people?
So vaccination and older persons is very important. It's something that we have been pro-vaccine. We have been sharing. We work along with the coordination committee for the country with vaccination and older persons, simply because of what the coronavirus does to older people. And we've had it both ways. The older persons who are resisting and older persons who want to take the vaccination. For the most part, we would like to remind families that older people are capable of making and have the right to make decisions in regards to their health care. If there is an older person who's listening and they would like to get vaccinated and they're having some resistance from their family, they can contact us at the council and we can see how we can network with our partners on the ground to have them taken to a vaccination site and receive their vaccine. We have seen reluctance from some older people with the vaccine because there has been a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
And while younger people might be able to sift through a lot of the noise on social media, the more fantastic things that we hear about the vaccine, sometimes those things are fed to older persons from people that they consider to be knowledgeable about a topic, and that creates barriers for themselves. We also saw barriers with older persons early on where they were the only ones being vaccinated in a household, and they would tell you that, well, I want to get vaccinated, but what about my daughter? Yeah. What about my son? What about my grandkids who have to go back to school? So now that the vaccination sites are open, we've actually seen more older people being able to respond because they're able to go with their families. Yeah. And we also know that older people prefer to go to vaccination sites with someone. You have to remember that in the initial stages, the entire idea of the vaccine, COVID-19, everything was very scary, very new, very novel. And to go into a facility, to go into any place that you're not certain what's going to happen, you're not 100% sure what they might ask you, even though the process is very simple and easy. And I believe Ministry of Health has done an excellent job at making that process easy. It was always easier to have somebody go with the older person.
Yeah.
Just, accompanying them. But we would like to remind families that older people are capable of making their own decisions, and it is their right to make their own decisions regarding their health care. And we also want to encourage families to research, reach out to knowledgeable sources, and really make the right decision when it comes to vaccination and understanding what being vaccinated means and how it provides safety and security for the entire population and the risks of not being vaccinated. So those are things that we ask families to consider in both instances.
And I think you said something so important there, and I'm glad you said it. So if someone's at home and they want to get vaccinated and they can't convince their family, you guys can be able to step in. National Aging Council, I imagine some of the social workers do, to assist with getting the elderly vaccinated.
We will do our best to network. The organizations down on the ground actually did a very excellent job at mobilizing their older people to vaccination sites, making sure that they were receiving their vaccine. We also work along with HECOPAP and some of the other actors on the ground. So we would do our best to mobilize our network so that older persons can access the vaccine. And it's also they are one of the most vulnerable populations, and at last week, I believe about 50% of all older people had received their first vaccination.
Wow. Nice.
So it's a good number, it's up there, but we are still looking for older persons. And what was recognized early on is that while we do have older people attached to organizations, we have far more older persons in communities who aren't attached, who are reliant on their families. And sometimes families themselves have challenges in regards to being able to mobilize an older person, moving them out. Sometimes it's a case of having a vaccination site placed closer to where people can access it easier.
Or have mobile clinics
that we look at.
Sorry, I was saying, or they could have mobile clinics going out. Just one final question for me. It's talking about the stories you get from the elderly who have now been fully vaccinated. I know I have my personal experience. It's just a a great sigh of relief when you're elderly. My mom, in this case, has received his second vaccination, and you can feel comfortable being around them again, not putting them at risk. What's the story from the other side? What do you hear from the population that you work with?
Well, mostly those who have been vaccinated are looking forward to things being opened up again. They become a lot less cautious in carrying out daily activities. Not to say that they become reckless, but they become a lot less cautious in going to do simple things like paying their bills. Or maybe meeting up with other friends who have had the vaccine, like in groups of 2 or 3, and having lunch somewhere. Wow. So it's definitely looking at reclaiming their life. You know, they start talking about when can we get together, what are things that we can do, and even still reaching out to other older persons. You'll be surprised how many older people actually do that advocacy work on their own, talking to their peers who have not been vaccinated about why haven't you been vaccinated, what are the benefits of being vaccinated, and their own experience with the vaccine. And we also find that that is very helpful when an older person will tell you, well, girl, you know, I get my vaccine and it's easy, I only been there for 20 minutes, you know, it hurt me for a day, I never get no fever. And those personal experiences go a long way with other older people who are still making up their mind, because we do have older people who are still uncertain that it's something they want to do, and we probably still have older people who won't take the vaccine. But the influence, the positive influence that the vaccine has on the lives of the older people who have actually taken it, it really can't be measured.
Michelle, you know, we're so grateful to get the information from you. 50% you say, and you're looking for higher numbers of elderly who have been vaccinated.
Oh yes, to get that first jab.
All right. Sure, go ahead. Final words are yours, Michelle.
Well, I think one of the things that I really want to encourage families to do, it's something that the council has been working on, and I hope that I can come on and talk to you guys about that on another time, is digital literacy and older people. Getting older people connected and looking at how they can be more independent and more empowered. On the screen we have a graphic of a survey that the NCA had done via Facebook, and we had 200 plus respondents, and last week we actually finished our final module of digital literacy for older persons that we did in collaboration with CETO. CETO really came on board and partnered for that. And so we've been talking to other people, we've been training them how to more effectively use their cell phone, how to get on WhatsApp, how to do video calling, but also looking at the safety of internet use for older people, how to recognize that something might be a scam, what kind of messages not to respond to, and then of course how to do the more practical side, internet banking, bill pay, these things, and looking at how they access services. The more things go online, the more important it's going to be for older persons and persons throughout our community really to know how to navigate digital devices and use digital platforms. If you really think about it, 25 years ago, we didn't really have computer classes in Belize. So you have people in their 40s who have limited experience using some of these devices. And so really looking at how we can bridge the gap, because it affects older persons, people 60 plus, but there's definitely younger people in the late 40s, early 50s who still struggle with digital literacy.
Yeah, it's two realms. It's learning to use it and then learning to decipher what is fact and fiction online.
That's true. That's true.
And that is so fantastic. We do hope to get you back to learn more about it. Maybe get some of the students to join in too. Ishel, we appreciate it. It was a time to put into perspective that our elderly, who we've always recognized as vulnerable, also should be taken care of emotionally, and also should be encouraged to get vaccinated and assisted to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Have a great day.
You too. Right. Well, we're about to take a break, but when we come back, we'll be discussing Music Week 2021. We got word that there'll be some lunch hour concerts. Now, Kim Vasquez will be telling us exactly how you could be a part of it when we come back.
This COVID update was brought to you by Fulltech Systems. your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service. Working off-site doesn't mean you have to be off your game. Studies have shown that simply adding a keyboard and mouse to your laptop increases productivity by 26%. Add a monitor, and you'll be 35% more productive. At Fulltech Systems, we have what you need to enhance your remote work or e-learning experience. With devices such as headsets, video conferencing monitors, webcams, keyboards, mice, docking stations, all with the brands you trust. Keep connected with collaboration tools like Microsoft 365 Suite and Kaspersky and perform efficiently no matter where you are. Fulltech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
If we are only as strong as our families, businesses, institutions, and the communities that surround us, then by giving businesses the power to grow, entrepreneurs the ability to expand, and by giving our families the right to own something, the Belize Bank gives you the power to build a nation, our nation. We are stronger together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
With the touch of a finger, we can easily unlock our phones and securely gain access to our data. This technology is called biometrics, and the Social Security Board is introducing fingerprint recognition to make transactions and handling of your sensitive data secure, fast, accurate, and convenient. Is your identity safe? Fingerprint recognition will keep your Social Security record secure and confidential while making your access fast and easy. It protects your identity. Is your name a common one? Fingerprint recognition uses your unique characteristics, ensuring your hard-earned benefits go directly to you, the rightful owner. Tired of all the paperwork? Fingerprinting makes this hassle-free. Your convenience and your information security is our priority. Fingerprint recognition coming soon. Social Security at your fingertips.
It's a fact that with Smart, you get truly unlimited everything. Only with Smart, you get unlimited data anytime, while with the other guy, it's only double data on weekends. With unlimited data every day with Smart, there's no need to wait. So, it's a fact that our unlimited plans beat the competition. Stop being measured and told when to use your data and get unlimited talk, text, and data. Experience the true unlimited plans with Smart. That's a fact. Make the switch and live smart.
Welcome back. We're moving now into our third and final segment for the morning. Music Week 2021 is here, and in to talk to us about it, Kim Vasquez, Program Officer at the Institute of Creative Arts, NICH, is in with us. Kim, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's always nice to have you in. But Music Week 2021, let's talk about it. It seems exciting.
Well, we certainly hope so, yes. We're having a different Music Week this year. It's going to look different than the Music Weeks we've had before, of course. Of course, it's fully online. It's a virtual event.
Okay.
And we're doing something different this year. We are shifting the focus and making the emphasis more on the webinars and discussions that we could have, professional development, networking.
Okay. So that's the focus now. It's not when people hear Music Week, the first thing they think about, and myself, I'm guilty. You think about actually listening to music. You think about hearing new music, and of course, local cultural music. I thought it would have been around that.
But that is all still a part of it, right? So let me put your fears to rest. There are some interesting things happening. Where can I start? First of all, one of the biggest things we want to achieve with this year is the Play Belize Music campaign.
What is that?
Music Week is actually next week. It's the 24th to the 28th.
Okay.
And so all week, of course, we're going to be promoting and highlighting all Belizean artists, whether it is cultural genre or urban music, it does not matter.
Yeah.
Whether you are an amateur, there is a space for you, right?
Okay.
We are trying to be as inclusive as possible because we need to move the industry forward together.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do with the Play Belize campaign, we have one day designated, which is Wednesday the 26th. And we are asking to let the airwaves be filled with nothing but Belizean music all day. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, we're asking the fans to do their part. Use the hashtag Play Belize Music and blast Belize music all day long. To help us do that, we are asking all Belizean artists to submit their new music releases, 2020 to 2021. We are accepting up to 10 tracks. Submit those. We have some DJs that have come on board to assist us. We are partnering to help us assist with promotion. We have Flavors Entertainment. We have Sector 9. And we are really pushing the Play Belize music campaign. We want to make that go viral. And we might make it an annual feature, the Play Belize Music Day. So like I said, you can expect to see some surprises on that day. We're planning to have some takeovers. You may see some of our niche social media pages being taken over by some popular DJs who will be, again, just playing Belize music all day long. And as I said, it's cultural, it's urban, it's amateur, it's established. Everyone has a place in music.
And how can one be a part of it?
Well, we have the forms up. We have a Google form that is up right now on the Institute of Creative Arts page. You can reach out to ICA, ICA at nichebelize.org. You can also reach out to me at nichkim.vasquez@nichebelize.org to find out how you can get involved or if you need assistance, right? But as I said, we're pushing everybody towards the Google form. We're trying to make the process as seamless as possible so that the DJs that want to access the music and the radio stations and so forth can have one source where they can go to get the new releases. So as much as possible, we're trying to work with the form that we have created to upload the music. Yeah. Along with that, we also have 5 lunch hour concerts.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about.
Yeah, some people said, why only 5? And Music Week is not going to be the end. This is something we're trying out to help give a platform to artists that have a new album out that they want to promote. And we're being very honest in our approach to Music Week. None of the artists that are on the lineup for those lunch hour concerts are being paid. What they're doing is they're promoting their new music that they have out. So all of them have new releases that they're coming out. And we also selected one youth artist band, which is the Los Hijos del West from Benque. And yes, like I said, and that was an open call. We got submissions, and we did look at the submissions that came in. We didn't get many, but we were pleased with the responses we got, and we were pleased that those that applied to be on the lunch hour lineup all had new music. There is also a question of what we want to show is to open up a dialogue of marketability and getting yourself ready to not only perform locally, but to move into the region and internationally.
Yeah.
And so we also have on the calendar of events several webinars. And again, like I said, we really want, yes, you know, we look forward to the music and the concerts during Music Week, but we are trying to change the focus and have artists come on board with Music Week as something, not so much as a gig, but as a pathway to professional development, and let us see how we can come together as stakeholders in the industry. So we have some webinars. We have people partnering with us. For example, we have Discup that will also do a webinar as well. We have an international presenter that will speak specifically to the cultural music genre and tell us what is happening with that music market, especially in the North America region. And one of the biggest workshops we will have, we want to end off the week with a big industry discussion. We want to have a panel assembled with industry insiders, and we want to be able to look at certain topics because we know that the music industry has changed.
Yeah.
Definitely, it is not going to be the same going forward. So we need to get ready, and we need to discuss together what do we need to, what steps do we need to take, what do we need to do to be ready to get, you know, when we look beyond COVID.
So talk to us about the lunch hour concerts are going to be live on Facebook, and anybody can watch that. We had the flyer up with the concerts, but the webinars are also really important as well. Is it going to be moderated by Belizeans in the industry?
Yes, all of them are very interactive. They are. We are also including music educators because they are a part of the industry as well. They are the ones that are prepping and priming the musicians that will who will take the place in the industry soon, the keyboardists, the guitarists. So we want to be bringing in, as I said, as inclusive as possible. That also the music educators have a forum as well to tell us what are some of the strategies that have been working. Music education, not only music business, but music education was severely impacted during COVID. Many music educators transitioned to online format. Some struggled with that transition, but then there is the question, what next? We are caught sort of like in a limbo right now, and we want to know what we will do to move forward for music students, especially those of them that have committed 2, 3, 4 years to their own professional development as youth.
Yeah.
And so it is important for us to have that discussion about where youth are in the music industry.
All right. You know, it says as well on the flyer that registration, you must register. How can you register to be a part of it?
Again, we're doing everything via Zoom. We have a form, a document circulating, a PDF document that you can request. You can call Ika, you can email us at the email addresses I gave to be able to get the PDF with the link so that you can register, right? We're trying to, like I said, keep everything in this fully online format. And so there is a registration process, but it only takes a few minutes to sign up for it and get ready to participate in the webinars.
Well, it sounds good, especially those lunchtime concerts.
Yeah. I'm excited, yes. You know, they're not long. They're about a half hour in length.
Yeah.
And we're encouraging you to eat your dinner and play Belize music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Have a good Belizean Bram at the office if you're eating there.
And evenings or some panades, whatever you need to have, and just enjoy some good Belizean music on your lunch hour.
Nice.
This is exciting. And you said Music Week is next week, right?
It's next week, yes. And like I said, you can look for a lot of activity on social media. As I said, we have the lunch hour concerts. Those are pre-recorded. There's 5 of them. But in addition to that, you can look forward to seeing a lot of the involvement of the DJs promoting the local music online. You know, like I said, we have some takeovers planned. So there's going to be a lot of excitement. and look for it on social media. Look for those hashtags, Play Belize Music, and we want the fans to get involved. We're asking Belizeans to come on board and elevate and promote, help us to promote Belizean music online.
All right. I'll tell you what, I could hear the excitement in your voice, and we're looking forward to it as well.
Thank you very much. We're excited.
All right. So all this information, it's on Niche's Facebook page, right? So people can get more info there.
Creative Arts Belize, the Institute of Creative Arts Belize. And everything will be shared as well on our parent page, the National Institute of Culture and History. But you can look for everything on ICA's Facebook page. And I'm sure that within the next coming days, you will see more of the promoters and the DJs really revving up, and you will be finding the information on social media everywhere, right? As I said, but if you need assistance, please reach out to us at ika@nichbelize.org, or give us a call at 227-2110. We don't want any artist to feel they're being left out and that they do not have a voice in Belize Music Week.
All right. Kim, thank you. It's going to be an exciting week next week.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we need to take our final break for the morning. When we come back, we will be wrapping things up. Stay with us. We'll be back.
These challenging times, the one thing that is certain is that the Belize Bank Limited is here for you. There is nothing more important than your health and safety, and we continue to make every effort to make banking safer for you. Our staff is working around the clock to make sure you can do your banking conveniently 24/7 using our mobile banking app and online banking, and keeping ATMs up and running. We value your relationship with us and are here to provide the support you need. First responders are also out there 24/7. Thank you, healthcare workers, security forces, firefighters, caregivers. You are all appreciated. Stay safe. We will get through this together. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Smart continues to expand its internet coverage countrywide to help you live a smarter life.
Our villagers are very happy. They are pleased to know that Smart went the extra mile to put a tower in our village so that our villagers can get live stream on their TVs and they can get their kids doing their online classes. I want to say to Smart, thank you for making it possible for us to get internet in Gardenia Village. We really do appreciate it.
Smart continues to take the internet and mobile services to communities across Belize. Now save even more when you bundle your smart broadband with smart mobile services. Smart, bringing people together.
Just like that, we're back. And just like that, we have come to the end of our show for today. We keep on reminding you that you can check out the newscast later on this evening at 6 o'clock live right here on 5. Whatever should be the case throughout the day, we feature those stories and more right here on 5. We also want to remind you that without you, this wouldn't be possible. We won't be able to sit here and, of course, provide to you with the information we know that you need. If you've got any questions, any concerns, drop us a line at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can also find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYEBelieve.
And you could always join us again tomorrow morning when you open your eyes
to start your morning right.
As per usual, keep your eyes, your minds,
and your hearts open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Peter Rayman Brace Lefaras Len Adeiro Bani Iri Gadi Nago I Peter Iman Bresle Parasle Aderubani Iri Gari Nago Gari Egini Nagu Dumurei I Ligia Lucini by Gari Funa Gari Egini Nagu Dumurei I Ligia Lucini by I Mabule da Wamai Tia Manasi Hanya I Mabule da Wamai Nito nem buganari go Adyongari na go Anei buganari go Arete manere dere I Peter Iman Bresle Farasule Adeiro Bani Iri Gari na go I Peter Iman Bresle Farasule Adeiro Bani Iri Gari na go Gari Egini Nagu Dumurei I Lige Lucini by Gari Funa Gari Egini Nagu Dumurei Lige Lucini by Gari Funa. Alright.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.